All right. Greetings, everybody. I'm back with another great video. Hopefully, this is a very great video. This is my intention to make this a great video that is very informative because people need to know this information. And welcome to the Committed Relationships and Spiritual Activity YouTube channel. And the title, the name of my YouTube channel is exactly that information, including personal development information. So it's obvious I made my YouTube channel name obvious because that's exactly what I talk about. Committed relationships, spiritual activity, and also personal development. Now, my name is Neo, N-E-O, and I'll give you a brief background with me. Years ago, I would say somewhere between 2006 and 2008, I had a relationship breakup with a female that I was dating at the time. And it turns out that she says that I haven't reached the potential that she is looking for. So for me at that time, I was a little bit sad, but I wasn't quite sad as I usually am at that time before her. So I sat down, and my intentions at that time was to just move to another relationship. However, I had a powerful epiphany and a strong voice that came through and said to me, what makes you think that you are prepared for another relationship? That thought right there that came through, that voice made me stop and think like, wait a minute, that is actually true, because my mother, my father, none of my sisters, and nobody ever taught me relationships. So what makes me really think that I know relationships and that I'm ready for a relationship? And that made me think like throughout my years of studying, because at that moment, that's when I went on my journey of relationship studies and observation and examination of relationships. And that's various aspects of relationships. That's one thing I want to mention too, is a lot of people fail to actually study the various aspects of relationships. Just like a lot of these dating coaches and dating teachers and gurus, whatever, that's all over YouTube, they only study the first aspect of the relationship, and that's the dating. That's actually just obtaining, attracting a mate, but they don't really know the further aspects of the relationships that's needed. And if you really think about it and you observe their material on YouTube, very few to nobody actually mention the mind and the importance of having adequate mental health. That's the first and foremost a person must have before they actually jump into a committed relationship with anybody. So these dating coaches that you're listening to, you really have to take a lot of their information with a grain of salt and really have to know all of the other important aspects that are prerequisites of the dating process, and that's getting your mind right. So throughout my years, I've been studying a variety of different aspects of relationships, and what got me started first and foremost is the book titled Straight Talk for Men, Understanding Marriage, or something like that. It's a yellow and red book, and I might put the picture up. I think I still have the picture on my on my computer. The other book that I love is, that got me started. Let me get this name right. Understanding People, the 5 Secrets to Human Behavior. I'll put that picture up also. Those 2 books and a variety of different Psychology Today magazines that really got me started. Then I had John Tess, the John Tess Show. I'm telling you, he used to have some serious relationship information that you can really utilize within your own life. And that got me started. That helped me. That and also studying my family. That was my first study specimens that I studied about relationships. Because if you think about it, our family is our very first relationship experience before we move forward. And that is where we develop our mental foundation of relationships. And that can be a positive experience, or it can be a very negative, limiting experience. So it all depends on how the family has been developed And I'm going to go into that more later on in this recording. Let's see here. So now I developed also from the family studying, and then now I do a variety of different studying of people in a variety of different environments. So I have my own little ways of doing that. So now that I've developed all of this information throughout the years, and I spend a lot of time sitting down in silence, meditating on this information, and new information comes through, and I realize so many different things, and I avoid watching a variety of different things consistently, and that's TV, listening to the radio, and I avoid a variety of different immature information and immature music that would negatively program my mind to a low level and keep it down there. And I'm going to that later. So now I have decided to go with this YouTube channel and give people information from my studies that I have learned. And this is this channel right here. So now this channel, this recording that I'm going to go in is called The Social Programming of Relationships. And I came with this idea after sitting down, reading a variety of different status updates online, on a social media website, and also watching some videos on YouTube. And it made me realize that a lot of people don't realize all of the variety of social programming that they must get out of, and then add new beliefs to their mind so that they can then have productive beliefs that actually are useful, beneficial for themselves. Because there's a lot of social programming that keeps people on a low, limiting level mentally, that keeps them from perceiving the appropriate people, places, and things for their lives, rather than the limiting negative things for their lives, including as far as relationships. A lot of people haven't been able to perceive, first and foremost, the correct mate for them as far as a committed relationship, due to their limiting negative beliefs, and that comes from their social programming. So that's why they don't attract the right people into their lives as far as their relationships in general. So let me go ahead and explain what social programming is. Social programming is the societal mind control that is put on the people of society, programming them the way that the programmers of society wants the people of society to be programmed. So let me go ahead and give you an example. So there is everything that you see, and these are throughout all of the media outlets. That's TV, of course, and then TV is the main tool of the societal programmers that is utilized to program people's minds. And you have to understand the mind and what it is. And I have a variety of different informations about the mind. You can check out my other YouTube channel at Neo Oneness Subliminals YouTube channel. I speak about the mind there, and sometimes I speak about the mind throughout my various previous videos. And at the end of this video, if you have enough time, definitely go back and check some of my previous videos that I have here on my YouTube channel. If not today, then some other time, definitely come back to it, and definitely make sure that if you want more relationship information that is very informative and that comes from actual experience in general, from my own experience, and also experience of speaking with other people, doing my own studying, my own case studies, then you want to come here for that, and also personal development and other spiritual information. So definitely hit that subscribe button, and if you would like to get email updates, click that bell button. So throughout you got the TV, the radio, magazines, TV shows, and movies. They all are social programming people's minds with the agenda of the societal programmers. And the societal programmers are actually the controllers of the media. you have a group of people who are controlling the media. And these group of people, whoever they are, nobody actually, well, there's very small people who actually know who these people are specifically. So it's these group of people who have their own private agenda to control the masses of people. And throughout the years, they have done a immaculate job of controlling the masses of people with that TV. And me studying the TV after I did my 3 years of TV fast. And a TV fast is definitely necessary for people for at least 6 months or longer. And a TV fast is literally avoiding watching TV by all costs as much as possible. Definitely, if you have to, you got to cut off your TV signals too, because the radio signals that come in and out of your home is actually negatively affecting your brain. And in fact, a lot of our electronic devices are exactly doing that. They're negatively affecting people's brains. And the way to combat that, though, is those of us who have reached a higher spiritual consciousness. What it does is the spiritual side of us, it will negate these electronic devices signals, and it'll help us to adjust to it as quickly as possible. And I can give you an example. One time one of my aunts had a new cable box, and her old cable box, my brain and my spiritual side of me already made the adjustment to it. But when she got a new box, it was much more powerful as far as the box and that signal. So I immediately, when I walked into the room, I felt that signal had like this beep noise. This signal is this beep, and I was the only one who was able to really perceive it at first. And it was almost like the sound of, the sound where somebody will take something and they'll scratch against a blackboard and you hear that, that loud screeching noise. That's what I'm talking about. So that's what happened when she had that new box. So it took me maybe about 5 to 10 minutes to make that adjustment. So now I can deal with it and it doesn't negatively affect me at all. So for the people who have not reached an adequate level of spiritual consciousness and overall spirituality, and who can't make that adjustment, they are left on a lower level, on a lower psychological level due to that frequency. It reminds me of the movie, similar to the movie The Kingsman. Go check that movie out. The scene where they hit the signal on the phone, and that signal makes people just go mad. They just go nuts and start killing people. Well, that is something similar, if not exactly to that, is going on with the cable boxes and a variety of different frequencies. And these radio frequencies on the radio, when people listening to the radio, those frequencies are going through the radio also. So that's another social programming as far as radio frequencies. So you got to go ahead and definitely check out the science in that. This is something that I already just picked up naturally, and spiritually I can just perceive it, what's going on. So I didn't have to check any science on that. But for those people who are the intellectuals and who have to feel like they have to have physical evidence, then go ahead and check out the radio frequencies that's going on through the TVs and through the radios that's causing people's brains to be on a low level. So regarding the TV, though, the TV that has a variety of different TV shows and movies that have been programming people's minds negatively. And just recently, probably a few weeks ago, I was at either my sister's house or my mother's house, and I was going through the channels, and it dawned on me that the programmers, they literally have programs for every aspect of a human life. All aspects of a human life, they have an agenda in every TV program that covers every single aspect of a person's life, especially the relationship aspect of their lives. And once I stopped watching TV for a very long time, and I did that TV fast, when I came back to watching TV at another person's house, I was able to perceive so many different things and so many different agendas that's going on. And it just clicked to me. And then it was one time I was like, oh my God, look at this. This is what they're doing. They got this, and this going on. So a lot of people most people here in America especially, have been watching TV since they were babies. Literally, their parents put them in front of a TV and they've been watching TV for 30 plus years. These type of individuals usually are susceptible extremely easy to the societal programs of these TVs. And if they have not reached a certain spirituality, then they're just going to be mind controlled by the TV. That's why I say doing a TV fast is necessary for the average person, so that they could cleanse out all of the radio frequencies. They can stop the radio frequencies from coming through. And especially if they cut off the TV programming, like literally the connection. And then they can raise their mind to a higher level, because the frequencies aren't going through their brain and keeping them on a lower level. So those people who've been watching TV and they never stopped watching it, they're just going to be left on the mundane level, and they're getting programmed consistent downloads of new information that the programmers want them to do. So it's all aspects of their life. So there's the relationships, it's the food, telling you how to eat. You got the programming of the society as far as the police. They got people believing in the police as if they're like a Jesus or like the Avengers. It was one time, like when I stopped watching TV, and this is what I'm talking about, speaking on perceiving things on a higher level. I was observing the cops one day when there was a certain particular situation that happened, and it dawned to me, and I can perceive how a lot of them, when they were in that situation, and this is in real life, in my personal experience, when they were in a situation, I can see that the majority of them were scared. They were scared out of their mind. And it made me realize, like, wait a minute, so these people are actually just humans. And that was when I got out of my programming that made me believe that the cops and FBI agents and all of these CIA agents and whatever, I got out of the programming that made me believe that they are something like the Avengers or some kind of superheroes. Because if you think about it, watch these TV shows and think about these TV shows and these movies, how they got the cops perceived as some kind of superhero. Just watch, just think about those movies. Like, you got Bruce Willis, where he's in the movies where he's a cop and he's doing all of these spectacular things as a cop. You got a lot of different actors, and that's what Hollywood does. They put magic in front of your face, making you believe whatever it is that they want you to believe. But if you don't have a higher consciousness at all that has been activated to be able to question and analyze this information that's going through and be able to perceive that these are just illusions, then you're just going to fall for these illusions. So that's what is going on with these relationships. So the relationship programming, they're programming people's minds to believe whatever it is that they want to believe. And let me go ahead and give you an example. Well, the first thing is the media has failed to fail to emphasize to people the importance of mental health. You have to have an adequate, stable, the more pure mental health as possible. The TV and the movies has been getting people to believe more into getting their physical health in order before their mind. No, it is your mind that is a direct result and in control of your physical behavior. So a lot of people who are physically unhealthy are actually mentally unhealthy first and foremost. Once they clear up their mental health, then they'll be able to perceive on a higher level the importance of their physical health and taking care of their physical body. But a lot of people, they don't realize that. And then you got some people who are focusing on their physical health first and foremost, as far as working out, being gym rats. But then when you really speak to them on other aspects of their lives, they are pretty much idiots. They really can't speak about higher spiritual matters. They aren't really articulate. And you look at some of these people, they are meatheads. It's not only men who are gym rats, who are meatheads, but there's some women too. They spend their days at the gym looking beautiful as far as women, but you speak to them about about a lot of other aspects of their life, you can tell that they haven't spent much time on their mental development. And that's just people. That's I'm gonna say people in general, but I'm just saying, when you hear meatheads, you hear it a lot in the media where they talk about men, but there are also women who are gym rats who can be considered meatheads too, where they just look good and that's it. And this comes through my experience of studying people in general. I see that there's a lot of women who have those good physical looks. They got a good job, they got a car, and this is what society programs people to do. Focus on their body, they look good, they got a car, they got a career or a good job, and then they think that they're an adult. And as I said in a lot of my other videos, that these all external material possessions and external things are just options of being an adult that a person can take on, but they're not requisites. So a person can be considered an adult and not have a car. A person can still be considered as an adult and not have a job. A person can be considered as an adult and not even have a bank account. What qualifies an individual as an adult is adequate psychological maturity. If you don't know what psychological maturity is, then you more than likely aren't an adult. You probably haven't even reached that at all, or maybe a little bit, because a lot of people, they'll reach it a little bit to a certain extent to where you can have an adult conversation with them. But there's a variety of aspects of the mind that needs to be developed. The mind needs to be cultivated. The mind needs to be cultivated throughout the years of a person's life. If the mind is not cultivated to a higher development level to be able to be an adequate psychological maturity level and to be stable, more than likely the individual is going to be persuaded throughout the media in a variety of ways and throughout being with the wrong crowd. Once an individual reaches psychological maturity, then they'll be able to perceive the people, places, and things that are actually beneficial for them versus destructive for them. So one way you can tell who has reached maturity is by observing the type of people that they surround themselves with. If they surround themselves with immature, destructive people that get them in trouble, the person is more than likely have not reached maturity, high level of maturity. If a person is obsessed with those immature, stupid reality shows where it shows groups of people arguing with each other, and that's the propaganda that's been going on for years too. Also, getting those stupid TV shows that shows a variety of people arguing with each other, got the family arguing with each other. That's a mental program to keep people on a low animalistic level. And you got these shows of these wives so-called in friendships with each other, but their conduct is extremely immature, animalistic, and betrayal is ridiculous that they consistently show. So these things, when these individuals consistently watch these TV shows, they are consistently downloading this information into their minds. So a mature individual would actually perceive and know that these TV shows are not appropriate, are extremely inappropriate for them to watch. So they'll stop watching them. Okay, so that's the social programming that's been going on for years. So really pay attention. You got to be wise of the type of TV shows, movies, and music that you watch consistently and you expose yourself to consistently, including the individuals that you deal with on a day-to-day basis. And for me, the more I matured, and let me tell you this, I actually started my personal development process after I moved out of my mother's house into my own place. And me looking back, like years ago when I did my personal development process and I completed a lot of it, I looked back and I realized that I was not learning much about life living with my mother. And that is how it is with a lot of people. They are not learning much about life living with their parents, because a lot of parents, and let me tell you this, most parents on average, and it's very few who actually have reached a psychological maturity adequately enough to be able to have children and be able to pass that maturity on to their children and actually teach them life lessons. But most parents, they do not have children appropriately as far as reaching adequate psychological maturity first and foremost. So a lot of people haven't reached a higher consciousness to be able to know how to actually reach parenthood, adulthood first. Because as an individual, you must reach an adequate level of adulthood and know what adulthood is. Like I said, social programming makes people think that having a car, having their own place, having money is considered adulthood. No, those are aspects of adulthood that are options that an individual can have. But if a person has failed to reach psychological maturity and a higher consciousness to be able to lead themselves without needing leadership from someone else external from themselves, and being able to understand life, then they do not need to have children at all. But societal programming programs people to desire that family life on top of nature, because it is in our nature to reproduce. But again, I have to explain this too. You have to reach a certain consciousness level to be able to override your own human nature. Because if you don't override your human nature and you're not conscious of being able to do that, then you're going to be running around allowing your human nature to control you. That's why I stress people, having a higher consciousness is definitely essential throughout your daily life. Having your higher consciousness activated. And I'll go ahead and talk about that, more about that later in solutions. So like I said, most people have not reached their higher consciousness. It has not been activated. So they're having these children unconsciously, and they think they are conscious while they're having the children, and they think they are planning for the child appropriately, but they're still unconscious. And I can tell which parents are still unconscious, and I can tell by observing the child's behavior and observing how the parents speak and reading their energy. You can read people's energy and you'll be able to learn a lot about a person by reading their auric field, but I'll go into that in another video. So let's see here. I have notes here, so hang on. So let me explain the lack of mature training. The lack of mature training is another thing that keeps people on a low animalistic survival level. Even if there's wealthy people, let me tell you, there is wealthy people who have not reached an adequate level of maturity, and a lot of people they're unable to perceive what maturity actually is because they themselves have failed to reach an adequate level of psychological maturity. So, like I said, when a parent haven't reached it, they can't pass it on to their children. One thing I've learned throughout my years of studying and observation of maturity is that parents can only pass on what they themselves have learned and actually internalized. If a parent has failed to internalize and reach an adequate level of maturity, then they cannot pass that on to their children. Like I said, my mother, I was not learning much about life living with my mother. So once I moved out of her apartment, her home, that's when I really started my personal development process, and I really started to learn life lessons, and I really started to pay more attention to myself, analyze myself, and notice what I need to work on regarding myself. And I really actually put in the development process, put in the development, the mental development of my own mind, to where years later, now I know what adulthood is. I can perceive it, and I'm living it, and I speak it, and my communication skills are way above average, more than ever before. So I can actually have adult conversations without having controversy, and I know how to deal with controversy. That is a major issue that most parents have, is they fail to actually teach their children how to communicate with other people, and actually how to, number one, avoid controversy, avoid actually starting controversial things within their life situations, and also be able to how to avoid controversy without jeopardizing their own integrity. And even they fail to teach their children how to have discussions so that they can resolve any kind of controversy that they are already in. And my family is a living example of that. And years after me completing my own personal development process and speaking with my family members, it clicked, and it dawned to me that my mother never taught us how to deal with controversy, because she herself doesn't know how to deal with it. And what she does is she runs. And I realized that talking with her, I see her behavior. And I'm talking about my mother, because my father officially left my life at the age of 16, and they divorced when I was the age of 4. So I didn't really have a mature, I did not want to say I really didn't have, I did not have a mature father figure within my life. So I had to learn what mature manhood is, through my own personal development process, and doing a lot of studying and observation of a variety of different men, and just doing my own meditations, where it allowed my own masculinity to increase. And I realized that the longer I spent by myself, away from my family and just away from everybody, the more, and especially away from TV, the more my masculinity, my natural masculinity increased. So it's like now I can speak like a man, and I can behave like a man is supposed to behave, and avoid running around like a coward and avoiding people, places, and things. Which avoiding certain people, places, and things is wise in certain situations, because there is what I call strategic retreats. But you have to have an adequate level of consciousness to be able to perceive those strategic retreats. So sometimes you do have to avoid certain people, places, and things, and certain controversial topics, because a lot of people, they don't know how to deal with those situations. So it's like, why even expose yourself to those situations with those people who already have a low mental health status, right? So the poor or lack of mental maturity and a poor environment, psychological and energetic environment, causes people to go through a tough childhood. And if that person does not develop themselves and focus on their personal development to evolve out of their childhood unresolved issues, then they're going to still be on a low childlike level throughout their childhood. Throughout their adulthood. And that's what a lot of people are now. A lot of people are still psychological children, regardless of their career, regardless of how much money they have, regardless of all of their material possessions, regardless of their good looks. If they have not reached psychological maturity and adequate level of it, then there's more than likely still on a childlike state. And their childhood experience is the mental foundation that they have to actually analyze and question so that they can then reach psychological maturity. But if a person has not done that personal development work, then they're going to still be on a low level. And most people, they fail to do personal development work because they don't even understand personal development work in general. Nobody actually pointed them out to it. Okay, now let me see here. So overall, having mature parents who have reached psychological maturity is essential for an individual to have that great starting point, that great mental foundation that they can build upon. So if a person wants to have a child, and if they want to give that child a great starting point, you have to get your own mind right first. Reach that maturity level first and increase your mental health status to a high level first and foremost, before you worry about all of your money, your job, and your car and your house. You got to get your mind right first. And that's one thing that society fails to emphasize is the mental health. Get that right first before you have your children. And then you can worry about all of your finances and stuff like that, because you definitely want to make sure that you have your finances right also before you decide to have children. But I don't emphasize that yet until I make sure that I emphasize the mental health status and getting that to a high level before having children. Okay, now next, I already talked about the personal development. Let's see here. Oh, the other thing is where people mess up in the social programming is the lack of desire to learn about relationships. As I said about me years ago, I realized that I didn't know diddly squat about relationships. So at that moment, I realized that I needed to actually study and understand relationships for myself, so that I can get to the point that I am at now, to be able to get through relationships, maneuver through relationships, and know how to perceive potential controversy. Because that's another thing. Once you reach a psychological maturity level and you have that relationship mindset, you can be able to, number one, perceive potential controversies, and you can be able to position yourself in certain situations so that you can be out of that potential controversy, to where even if it does start, you're completely out of it, and it can go on around you, but you're not in it. You're not in it. Or you can position yourself to where it can't even hit you at all, and you're not even in the picture, completely out of the picture. So it's a lot that this maturity mindset and relationship mindset provides, especially communication. Once you reach a psychological maturity, you will realize the importance of adequate, clear communication, and you know how to disclose information to other people and when to disclose information, important information, and also withhold important information. Me understanding communication amongst people and with people within social engagements, I have now understood and realized that there is a lot about communication that most people fail to understand. You will be surprised at how many adults do not know how to truly communicate with other people. And there's so many people who fail to understand exactly what I just said, how to disclose certain information and when to disclose certain information, important information, when to withhold certain information, and knowing what information that they need to not withhold. And then there's a lot of people, a lot of people who do not understand how to even ask for what they want. I can give you a recent example. Just yesterday, my mother I realized that she doesn't even know how to ask if I want to come over or not, because sometimes she wants me to come over her house just to hang out, or she wants me to do something for her. She doesn't even know how to actually ask me to do her a favor. And throughout the years, I realized that, and it's not only her, it's all of my sisters. They don't even know how to just come out and just ask a certain question. So it's like they have all these different tactics as far as beating around the bush to ask me for help. My little sister, I can say, she is at the second highest consciousness besides me to be able to communicate very well. So when it comes to certain negotiations, if I can have her be the talk for them, be the mouth for them, the negotiator or the advocate for them, then I'd rather talk to her than to talk with the rest of them, because they don't know how to communicate very well. And that's where they need help. And studying other people, I realized there's a lot of people who need communication training before they actually enter any relationship with other people, especially a committed relationship. So you'll get a lot of people who talk about, oh, communication is the key and yada, yada, yada. But a lot of those people do not. I study these people. A lot of them do not understand and have not internalized true communication skills. So that's what I advise everybody to do, is focus on your own social skills so that you can know how to communicate with other people. And this goes with also understanding your emotions. Check out my other video, the different intelligences, where I go and I talk about emotional intelligence. You have to have an adequate level of emotional intelligence so that you can be able to perceive what type of emotions you need to be in and focus on, and you have to learn how to control your own emotions so that you can be able to get your point across, number one, but also so that you can be able to focus and accomplish a task at hand. That's one of the major issues that a lot of people have within their relationships and even at their job. They get caught up in emotionalism. And this is both men and women. But us men, we are supposed to be able to bypass our emotions so that we can focus on anything that we need to focus on and avoid allowing emotionalism from distracting us. But nowadays, there's a lot of feminized men who have a lot more feminine traits, and they act more female than male. So that is one of the social programming that's been going on for years, and also even the programming of the foods that's been providing the opposite gender traits into men and women. So you got certain foods, especially drinking lots and lots of milk, that'll have a man, his estrogen levels increase, so he'll look more like a female and he starts to act like a female, regardless if he says that he is heterosexual. You got to check that out, the science of that also. So you got to pay attention to the foods too. But these TV programs get men acting like females, acting all soft and getting caught up in emotionalism. Then you have the females, a lot more now than ever, acting like men, acting masculine, but at the same time they say that they are heterosexual and they like men, but they have a lot of male traits that can be very unattractive to a man who really wants a feminized female who has feminine energy. Because me, I look for the ones that have an adequate level of feminine energy, because that feminine energy is what I need in my life, rather than masculine energy, because I already have a great level of masculine energy and I don't need that masculine energy in my life unless I'm hanging out with other guys. But even hanging out with other guys, I balance that level out too, that amount of hanging out with them, because hanging around too many men as a man is not a good thing. You still have to have a balance of feminine energy and masculine energy. It's a great balance. So hanging around with a balanced level of men and females is necessary. So what I want to go through and talk about is the emphasis of a teamwork environment. Social programming fails to teach people about teamwork environment within relationships, starting at the home as a family. Most people do not understand the necessary teamwork environment that is needed to be created within the home first and foremost, so that the children and so that you can have that teamwork mentality to be able to utilize within your life once you step outside of your home, in your work environment, your school environment, and anywhere else. Failing to do this will more than likely allow chaos to get started and be spreaded throughout your relationships. So at the home, the teamwork environments includes communication first and foremost, open communication, and avoiding scolding people when they make mistakes, allowing them to admit and encouraging them to admit their own mistakes. Once you have realized that there was a mistake, then you have to sit down with the individual or individuals and discuss what went on, learn how to analyze the mistake and then figure out ways to correct the mistake so that you can further prevent a mistake like that. Creating an environment like this will further help people be able to be open-minded to admitting their mistakes and coming together to be able to resolve the issues. These days and for years, many families have been scolding each other whenever they have been making mistakes, and then the parents fail to actually encourage the children to admit their mistakes and come out to them and explain what went on. So that's why you'll have the children hide their mistakes. They'll lie to the parents and then that behavior right there, the child carries on to throughout the rest of their lives and even in their committed relationships, and that causes a lot of dysfunction within their relationships. The TV programs, the movies, definitely they emphasize betrayal. They emphasize lying to your parents, lying within your relationships with people in general, but especially your committed relationships. If a person, like I said, if a person has not reached an adequate level of maturity and spirituality, especially to be able to negate and protect themselves from these societal programs, then they are further going to download that information, that negative information, into their minds, and it's going to be portrayed throughout their behavior. So that's why you see these people who don't know how to communicate. They hide their mistakes. They lie to try to cover up their mistakes. Let me see what else. They have the betrayal within their relationships, and they have the sabotaging of their relationships due to their unresolved childhood issues and their other mental issues in general. So a relationship with these people who have a low mental health status, if they fail to increase their mental health and address their mental health to raise themselves up, the relationship can be going smooth at one moment, and then due to their negative beliefs in their low mental health, it'll pop up. The wrong behavior will pop up, and then they'll cause dysfunction within that smooth relationship experience. So you can see that in relationships that you might have been in, where everything has been perfect, everything's been going smooth, but that one person either says something extremely wild and crazy, or they did something that was extremely wild and crazy in one way or another, and then it completely causes chaos within your relationship. And it might happen time and time again with that one person or those one people. That is an indication that that individual definitely needs some kind of psychotherapy. I know this by experience because I have family members that are like that. I studied them, and now I know what's going on with a lot of other people, and I can see who are the ones that need the most help. And the ones that need the most help a lot of times are the ones who causes the most sabotage and who are especially needy. The needy people are the ones who have not reached an adequate level of psychological maturity. So if you see a person that's always asking you for help, oh, can you help me with this? Can you help me with that? And especially when that whiny type of tone of voice, when they speak, the whiny type of tone of voice is whiny, high pitched, and the type of energy is like a childlike state. These individuals, regardless of their age, have not reached an adequate level of psychological maturity. So you got to pay attention to these people, and you got to limit your exposure to them if you want to still be exposed with them. If not, then completely cut them out of your life. I've cut a lot of toxic people out of my life. That also was a part of my personal development process. That has allowed me to reach a higher level of psychological maturity. So create that teamwork environment at the home first and foremost, so that you can help your children develop that team mindset, team first mindset. Then it'll help them within their adulthood so that they can understand maturity and teamwork rather than being deceitful like the TV shows teaches. Let me give you an example. That's why I stopped watching these drama shows like The Flash. You got The Flash, you got the Green Arrow, and you got the Supergirl TV show. These three TV shows, at first, I love sci-fi superhero movies and TV shows. But after analyzing these TV shows, like around season 2 of The Flash, I realized it's the same formula after each episode. Same formula where you always have somebody being deceitful in one way or another, and they're betraying their friend. So it's like, if you are a friend, then you know the importance of avoiding betrayal, and you know the importance of being truthful as much as possible with your friend or your mate, your committed relationship mate, the one that you're in love with. But now these TV shows, especially The Flash, they always show some kind of deceit. If you really pay attention to it, you always got a person that does something that they really aren't too sure about, but they know that it really wouldn't be a wise thing, but for some reason they still do it. And especially that Barry dude, the Flash himself, they got him the first season and second season, and they got him completely feminized. This is what I'm talking about, the feminization of men. They got him on a high feminine level, skinny as heck, and no muscle. Having a certain amount of muscle does help out with your masculinity, men. I'm telling you, it increases your working out, increases your masculinity, your testosterone, and your overall appearance. Being completely skinny and you flat chested, you got no muscle in your body at all that really shows through your body, that is not a really good look. And that's another feminized thing that they got going on. They got men in these skinny jeans, these tight skinny jeans, and they don't understand these men that's wearing these tight skinny jeans. Our private area needs adequate space and air to breathe. Same with women. Your private area has a requirement of space needed to be able to breathe. Wearing tight clothing actually clogs up your area from being able to breathe. This is why a lot of men especially have these erectile dysfunction, where they can't get their private area up. And I was so surprised when I first heard that men actually have this thing called erectile dysfunction, where they can't get their private area up. I always thought that all guys just naturally was able to get up. just like I was for years, and it's just a natural thing. It's like it wasn't nothing big to me as far as being able to get my thing up. I thought everybody was able to get their thing up, but studying this erectile dysfunction situation and also studying what our private area needs, that's one of the things that you got to consider. And these whitey tighties, you got to figure out, you got to understand that those things, they cut off your circulation. That's one of the things too. So pay attention to the type of pants you wear. You got to cut out those tight pants and those tight underwears, because it's cutting off your circulation. The other thing too is you got to work out so that you can increase your testosterone, because the testosterone helps out with your private area, so you can get that thing up too, and other aspects of your body and your behavior. And there was one time that I realized, like a few months ago, where I was working out extensively and regularly, and when I put down my weights, I realized how much more masculine I felt. I was like, yo, and then that's when I realized, like, okay, working out increases testosterone, so definitely work out more. So if you watch and analyze that TV show, The Flash, and really analyze it, you can see all of the deceit that's going on, and that's what I mean by the social programming. Okay, now let me go ahead and get ready to close this thing out. Because I've been talking a lot, and I'm telling y'all, regarding this information, this relationship information, man, I can go on for so long. I'm very enthused when it comes to this information in spiritual concepts and matters. So if you want to talk about that, I'm telling you, that is one thing that I am fluent about. So now let's go to solutions. So now we got solutions. If you want to raise yourself up and you want to evolve to a higher psychological level, like I said, you have to, if not completely cut out the societal media outlets, which I did years ago in my early process of my personal development process. Like my TV, I went on a TV fast for 3 years, and even the first 2 weeks of fasting from TV. TV fasting means you cut out TV completely. You don't watch it at all. At all, you don't watch it. If you can cut out that TV signal, that's a major plus. Don't bring that in your home at all. First 2 weeks, I realized from that TV fast, I realized that I did not have a desire to go to any fast food restaurant. When you consistently watch these advertisements on TV, they are subliminally programming you to go out and actually purchase whatever it is that they are advertising. If you study the subconscious mind and its functions, images and consistent audio over and over again programs your own subconscious mind, and our own subconscious mind deals with our overall behavior and our perception of life within life. So if you consistently see these fast food commercials, you are being influenced to desire to go out and buy these fast food restaurants. So if you consider yourself as a person who wants to lose weight and who wants to start working out more, then you must decrease your exposure to TV, if not completely cut it out, because you'll be a lot more focused when you decrease or completely cut that out of your life, even if it's temporarily. So go on a TV fast. You will be amazed at the results that you will get. You'll be able to focus more on whatever it is that you want to focus on, whether it be losing weight, and you're in school and you want to focus more on your schoolwork and you want to raise your consciousness so that you can even be smarter. If you cut out that TV, you can increase your intelligence also. Because these TV shows, they are keeping people on a low animalistic level. That's why one thing for me, what I do is I definitely make sure that I get the person's TV shows that they watch consistently. That'll give me a lot on their current mental health status. That'll give me information about that. You have to avoid immature, obnoxious music, because nowadays there's a lot more immature music than ever, especially on the radio. I rarely listen to the radio unless I'm like driving my mother's car or somebody's car, something like that. And people can't deal with silence. Other than that, when I'm by myself, I usually just go without the radio, no music. That allows me to perceive things on a higher level, especially driving, because driving deals with the brain. And the more conscious you are while driving, conscious of your surroundings, the better off you are being able to have a successful, smooth drive. So you limit your exposure to immature, stupid music. Limit that, if not completely cut it out, and focus more on a variety of different mature music. There are mature music that can help you raise yourself up, because music itself is another social program. Keep that in mind. Music itself is another social programming that programs people's mind. It could program a person's mind to dumb them down to be on an animalistic level, or to raise them up to be on an advanced psychological level. The other thing is, like I said, is cut off or decrease your exposure to toxic, immature people. And this can definitely mean your family members. I limit my own exposure to the toxic, immature family members of mine, my own. So definitely make time to sit down and analyze all of the people who have not been adding positive energy to you and your life, and being a positive influence in your life. If they still talk about immature, stupid things whenever you're around them, and they're not speaking about anything of maturity and of higher consciousness, higher intelligence to help you move out to a higher level and to help raise you up, and if they themselves are not focused on improving themselves, then you may want to limit your own exposure to these type of individuals, if not completely take them out of your life. So it's something that you have to really analyze, think about, and consider, because these might be people that you have close ties to throughout your years. But if you really want to evolve, you got to consider decreasing your exposure to these people. It helps out a lot. And me, I spend the majority of my time in solitude. And I'm telling you, the stuff that I can perceive now, higher spiritual information, is amazing. And the stuff that you see in my previous videos, that's just a small percentage of this type of stuff that I can talk about. And I got a lot more stuff that I want to share with everybody throughout my these next months and years to come. So definitely make sure that you hit that subscribe button to stay updated with my further information that I'm sharing with everyone here on this channel, as far as relationships, definitely personal development, and definitely further spirituality and spiritual activity. And make sure that you click the like button for this video. Make sure that you are signed in before you click that like button. And if you want other people to hear this information that you know that they need this for, that they need to hear this, make sure you click the share button and share it in any one of your social media apps. If you don't want to click that button, then you can also copy and paste the link of this video anywhere that you want to share this information in any method. So thank you very much for listening. I truly appreciate it. If you made it this far, wow, you made it. Thank you very much. And until next time.